Okay, here we've got the review for Alfred's Essentials of Music Theory, Unit 7, page 49, review of lessons 26 through 30. So let's just get right into it. Here we've got E to F, half step. B flat to C, that's a whole step. Here we got now B to C sharp, that is a whole step. Now it's just a C, so it's a half step. Here we got a whole step. We've got E to D sharp, that's a whole step. We got A to B flat, that's a whole step. And we've got B to C. I'm sorry, I am just on autopilot here. That is a half step. A to B flat is a half step. Then we've got B to C, which is also a half step. Okay. Always use a pencil when you're doing music theory. Okay. The pattern of a tetrachord is whole step, half step. Okay. Write tetrachords below starting on the following notes. All right. So remember, you got to do whole step, whole step, half step starting on the notes. So I just like to start alphabetically. Like this is F, G, A, B, right? And F to G is a whole step. G to A is a whole step. A to B is also a whole step. So you've got to make that B flat. Now you would think, why not just make the A sharp, right? But realize that that's going to change this interval from the G to the A from a whole step to a minor third, right? So you don't want to do that, okay? Because that changes the interval. You got to change the correct interval. Change the correct note. All right, next one. G, because remember bass clef. Good boys do fine always. All right. We've got G, A, B, C. G to A is a whole step. A to B is a whole step. And what do you know? What do you have? What do you know? B to C. That's a half step. So that's exactly what we need. And I'm just going to let you check your answers. I'm not going to do a tutorial on the whole thing. So here we go. B flat, C, D, E flat. And if you already know your key signatures, you can think key signatures too, because you would know that your B flat major scale had the E flat in it, and since that starts on B flat. So if you already know your key signatures, that can be useful here. So here we've got G, I'm thinking treble clef. We've got B, C sharp to get that whole step, and then D. And now our stem's got to go down because it's on the middle line. Sorry, I'm sloppy. I'm running into my stand here. All right. Draw a line to match each of the following. Second tetrachord of D major, right? Think about your notes. Just so you go D, E, F, G. What's the next note? It's going to be A, right? So, boom, A major tetrachord. Second tetrachord of G major is going to be G, A, B, C, and then the next one's going to be D, right? So there's your D major. Your C major tetrachord, C, D, E, F, then your next one's going to be G. So that's it, right? All right, the major scale is made up of two tetrachords joined by a whole step. A really good way to remember, if you start on any note, you can make a major scale by going whole step, half step, and then doing another tetrachord on top of that, separated by a whole step. And that's going to give you any major scale no matter what note you start on. How many notes are in a major scale? That's going to be 8 if you include the octave, which we do. All right. In a major scale, half steps occur between the third and fourth and the seventh and eighth scale degrees. Okay, so that's where your half steps are. Number 8, write major scales without key signatures, beginning on the following notes using whole notes. So here we're starting down on B flat. So if you're new to scales, just go ahead and do it in alphabetical order. So you got B flat, but just for alphabet's sake, you need the B, you need the C. We're also going to need the D, the E, the F, the G, the A, and then ending with the B. All right, since we know it started on a B flat, the octave's also going to be a B flat. Now, if you didn't know that, let's just start from the beginning, right? B flat to C, that's your whole step. So there's a train going by right now. I live close to train tracks. C to D, that is also a whole step, right? So you get your whole step. Now, D to E, that's also a whole step. So that can't be right because we need a half step there. So you're going to put your E flat there, right? E flat to F, there we go. F, that's a proper whole step. F to G is a whole step. So that's the separate, right? Here's your first tetrachord. That's the whole step that separates it. And now you got to start with your whole step, half step again. F to G, that's a whole step. G to A, that's a whole step. And A to B flat, since we already did that, that's also going to be a half step, just what you need. So you got whole, half, whole, half, all right? So that is your B flat, major scale, if you didn't know. All right, I'll just fill in the answers for the next one. D, again, going in alphabetical order, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. All right. Again, D to E whole step, E to F. That's also a half step, but we need a whole step, so we got to make that sharp. F sharp to G. There's your half step. Now the tetrachord needs to be separated by a whole step. So G to A, that is a whole step. There we go. A to B. That's also a whole step. B to C. That's a half step, so that can't be right because we need a whole step there, right? Remember, it's whole, half, whole, half. So we need a half step to close it off. C sharp to G is a half step. C sharp to D is a half step, so we're good to go there. All right. Next, fill in the missing notes in the major scales and indicate with an H above the staff where the half steps occur. So let's just do that quickly here. Check your answers. If you have questions, feel free to email me or ask me if you have a class with me. And here we go. And the half steps are going to be between the A and the B flat, and then the half step here is going to be between the E and the F. So that's your other half step right there. All right. Number 9, we're in bass clef now. So flip that switch in your brain. There we go. Make sure you're checking your answers. Getting everything correct. Check your whole steps and half steps. That's a C sharp there. The half steps occur, again, remember up here, between the 3rd and 4th and the 7th and 8th scale degree. So 1, 2, 3rd and 4th, the half step occurs right there. You know that. And if that's not correct, that's a good way you can check it. Is there a half step between the 3rd and 4th? That's a way that you can know you did it correctly, is by checking to see if there is a half step between the 3rd and 4th and 7th and 8th. If you got a whole step there, something is not going well. All right, fill in the missing notes and note values in the major scales. Okay, right, so here's a measure of 4/4, right? So we've already got 1, 2, so we got 2, 3.5 beats. So if we're doing eighth notes, I'm sorry, I'm not explaining this correctly. So you've got 2 beats in your half note, and then you've got 1 beat in your quarter note, plus the dot adds another eighth note. Because remember, a dotted note adds half the value of the original note to the note. Replay that if that's confusing, but that's what a dot does. So half the value of the original note would be 1/8 note, and since we have only one eighth note possible left in here. This is going to have to be an eighth note. So let's draw our eighth note. Remember, we're going up a scale, so C, D, E. Next one's going to be F, and let's see. This is obviously wants to be an eighth note here because it's got a beam going to it, right? So we're just going to put our B there. And then we've got 1, 2 quarter notes. 2 eighth notes equals a quarter note. So this is going to have to be a quarter note missing right here. Okay, I'm going to do that on F. Okay, and then for the final one, here we go. We're starting on B flat. So I'm guessing this is probably going to be our B flat major scale, okay? And we're in 3/4 different time signatures, so there's only 3 beats per measure, so make sure you account for that. So measure 1 is complete because it's a dotted half note. Measure 2, you've already got a quarter note in it. So what's missing here is going to have to be a half note. And the next one, we have, this is our E flat. So this is going to be an E flat missing. That's going to need to be on an eighth note actually, because we're in 3/4. We've already got a quarter note here, and 1, 2, 3 eighth notes. So the only possible rhythm that you could have there with one single note would be an eighth note. And make sure that's flat and your major scale is complete. And that does it for Unit 7 review, Alfred's Essentials of Music Theory.